All right, guys, good morning. It is April 1st. It is Tuesday, April 1st, and we just finished the live stream. I think there's a very interesting thesis out there today, and I want to go ahead and show you guys before the market opens, see how we trade, and then share with you how I followed my plan, if the plan worked, sort of take you from pre-market thesis, creating that idea with key levels, and then seeing how we trade it on the intraday. So I want to go ahead and pull this up for you guys to see. Here on the S&P 500, you guys can see we have a 56.65 yesterday high, pre-market high, very clear high here. Above this, very low volume area into around 57.20. If you can get a break and hold above that 56.65, I would be targeting up into this 57.20 and this daily 20 SMA. Now, if you do fail to move higher above this level and we start to see heavy fails, I'm maybe interested in fading this high, a little bit uninterested because of this low that's stepping up. So we're getting a really clear 56.20 demand low stepping up, which could, I think, hold this market higher throughout the day. If we do fail under that 56.20, if we reject below that, I would be short targeting around this 55.90. Breaking that, I would be short targeting the yesterday low around 55.60. So a really clear area here on the ES. I think some really clear levels. Let's see how this plays out intraday today, guys. So that is going to be my game plan for today's trading session, and I will catch up with you guys later today to see how we did. So that video you guys just watched was straight from the pre-market live stream, straight from the morning where we created that thesis, we created that game plan. We had an idea of what we were looking for stepping into the market, waking up early enough to create this game plan, to focus on our levels, and to prepare. There is nothing more important than spending that time in the morning, finding those key spots in the market, and then using your skills and your intuition and your experience to play based off of those levels, to read price action at those levels, to react to what the market is showing you. These are fixed spots on the market, and we are simply paid as traders to react correctly at these spots. And today is such a fantastic example of that when we jump into the charts. So jumping into the charts here, you guys can see that this morning we are looking at exactly the 56.20 level again on the S&P 500. So right here, 56.20. This was straight from the video you guys just saw before the market even opened, right? But how did we find that level, right? Why is this level important? We allowed the market to give us that context, right? We allowed the market to show us what levels we should be paying attention to. And so right here, we saw last Friday a very clear 56.20 step up, right? Then yesterday, we saw it try to reject 56.20. Take a look in the after hours and in the pre-market today. 56.20, 56.20. So that level was very apparent in the overnight session, and we knew coming into today that we needed to pay attention to what happened around this 56.19 to 56.20 level. So this morning we had that spot. Now the other spot we had in that pre-market video that we created was the 56.60 to 56.65 area. This was our potential rejection spot, and I'm going to go ahead and move that back right there. All right, so we had a previous day high, 56.65, pre-market high, 56.65. So we knew, hey, we could hold 56.20 and we could reject 56.65. We have a very clear channel here. Let's look for the market to either break on the other side of it or hold or reject these key levels. All right, so this morning, and back to the video we made about the 400K year to date. If you guys didn't watch that, I recommend you do. What did we talk about in that video? We talked about the first 30 minutes. We talked about allowing the market to go past the first 30 minutes. If I bring up a time, you guys can see the first 30 minutes was right here, right? So we can see this was your first 30 minutes of price action right there. Nothing happened. We moved a little bit lower. We moved into the 56.20. We bounced a little bit higher up towards the 56.60. We rejected, and we basically went nowhere. So again, today was a great example and a great reason, again, to not trade that first 30 and to allow the market to show you some context and some information. Now, right here, around 10:08, right, you guys can see that the market did flash below that 56.20 level. So right here, we can see 56.20, we drop below it. Now, you may say, Desi, why didn't you short under the 56.20? Now, let me show you why. The reason I did not short under 56.20 today goes back to the NASDAQ, and it goes back to something that we talk about all the time on this channel, and that is the Big Four correlation. That is needing all markets to break key levels before comfortably shorting or comfortably longing. So today, if you shorted the ES under that opening low, which was right here, or that pre-market low at 56.20, right? If you shorted below that 56.20 today, what else did you short into? You shorted right into the NASDAQ overnight low, and look at what happened at that low today. Look at how nasty that would have been. Look at that wick reversal candle right there at 10.20. I mean, just spot on, right? So if someone is just trading, watching the SPY or watching the ES, they would have said, hey, we broke that overnight low. I'm going to short that on a little rejection underneath. And, you know, maybe you got a few points there, but guess what? You are stepping right into the trap that they want you to step in, right? And how is that avoidable? It's avoidable by knowing all of your key levels. How is that avoidable? It's actually very avoidable, and that is just understanding your spots, right? And so 19,280 today on the NASDAQ futures, look at that. Look at that overnight low. Look at how that was a perfect pullback and long today. It was spot on. The difference is understanding your levels, right? So we talked about that in the pre-market live stream. If you come to it for free every morning, you would have known that was there, right? So congratulations to those who wake up and take the time to watch this. So what happened, right? Where did I find my long today? Where did I find that opportunity for a long side trade? And it was on the reclaim. And it was just quite insane how it worked out, right? So right here, you guys can see that we failed below that 56.20 and that pre-market low and overnight low. Now, right here, right at 10:36, you guys can see that we reclaimed that level on this candle. And I figured, right, that if we got back above that level, right, if we reclaimed back above that overnight low, back above this pre-market low, if we saw a candle hold back over that level, we could then long the market with a stop below that 56.20, 56.19, and see if we can trade it up into the 56.60 and possibly even higher. The other spot that I was watching was on the SPY, and this was 5.56. So if we zoom in here on the 2-minute chart, take a look at what happened here. We had a very clear pre-market low at 5.56 on SPY. We had an opening low. We had a pre-market low at 5.56 on SPY. That was the same as the morning low at 5.56. And look at the candle right here at 10:38 that reclaimed that level. Once I saw that reclaim at 5.56, I took my SPX long, and man, was that just an absolutely beautiful entry and pretty much vertical upside. Now, the reason I was so interested in that level on the SPY was, take a look at this candle, right? This candle got me very interested. I looked at that candle and I said, hey, there must be some serious buying action at that 5.56 SPY. We saw that major wick after hitting that spot, pushing it higher, ultimately failing below for a nice downside move. And this right here, my friends, is trapped sellers right here. Anyone that got short below this level, anywhere in here, anyone that shorted below that 5.56, once it wicked back above that level with this big volume you guys can see on the bottom side of the chart, ripped. Just sellers ripped below there. We went long right here. This was live on WAP. You guys can go back and WAP and watch it. It was 100% live with the group, with the members watching, screen share and everything. And man, was that a great time. We nailed that long, and it was pretty much vertical from that point, selling into the push, selling into 560, selling into this push, and just locking up profits. Now, the other game plan, if you guys remember, the other game plan today was a break and retest above 56.65, right? So go back to the beginning of this video. You're going to hear me say break and retest above 56.65. And why did I look for that? Pre-market high, right? Break, look at the pullback and hold, and look at the long opportunity that created itself later day. So I also went ahead and took that long as well. So pulling up my performance on my broker today, guys, you can see month to date, today was the first day of April, $52,000. Year to date, $450,000. Obviously, so far it has been an awesome year, and obviously today is a fantastic way to start April. But let's go over to the orders on SPX, and you guys can see exactly where I took these positions. So the first thing I want to point out is my later day entry. So I'm going to zoom in here. My later day entry was at 11:11. 56.30 call. 11:11 was right here as we started to get a hold over that 56.65 level. I figured I could try to ride this higher towards that original 57.20. We didn't quite get there, but I was profit taking into the move. You guys can see right here at 11:17. After this push, I took profits up $5 on those contracts. So that was a nice win there. Took more off at 19, right? These were in at 15, out 10 at 20, out 5 at 19, out 5 more at 16, right? And then just scaling out of this position as we got it. Now, these selling at 56 and 50, this was the beginning trade, and this was a wild one. And so if we go to our entries here, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see the entire screen here. Again, our entry was right here after we got above that 56.20. You can see my first entry was 10.37 and 10.38. And that is, my friends, right on this candle after we reclaimed that 56.20, after we had those trap sellers below our key level. Also, the NASDAQ holding that overnight low. I went ahead and got in with the group. We got in 40 contracts at an average cost of around $20, selling half at 25. Selling 10 more at 24, selling 5 at 32, 2 at 41, 1 at 50, and then selling the rest up here at 56 and 51. So taking those contracts from around 19.20 to around 56.51, that nets me about $52,000 today. And how, again, did that happen, right? What made me these profits? The profits came from knowing our levels, having our pre-market game plan mapped out, knowing the overnight low was there on the ES at 56.20, knowing that the NASDAQ futures had an overnight low around that 19,280. We didn't short into the NASDAQ lows, which was the absolute disaster move of the day, right? So the ES broke those overnight lows. Guess what? The NASDAQ did not. The NASDAQ had probably the most bullish wick you could possibly ask for right at that low. So I saw that holding. I saw the QQQ hold perfectly at our, if I pull on my levels, you can see the QQQ held that 465 level just about as perfect as you could ask for. So zooming in here, you can see 465, 465. So huge hold on the NASDAQ and Qs. And after seeing that hold, I figured if we reclaim that low, if we get back above that 56.20, which we did right there, and that pre-market low, there would be some trapped sellers and a fueling upside move, and that is exactly what we did today. So in today's video, you get to see how we go from game plan to execution to you guys that are in the group today, you guys that were in WAP. I hope you enjoyed watching it live. If you guys are interested in trading live with me on WAP in Discord, check it out down below. You'll see the link down below. I hope you guys learned something from today's video about first, not trading that first 30, which I'm really standing by, waiting for key level reactions, making sure you're focusing on all 4 of the markets, the SPY, the Qs, the NASDAQ futures, the ES. I have a lot of you guys asking me, Desi, what if I just want to watch this or that? Well, my answer to you, my friends, is if you're not watching it, you are going to open up yourself to get faked out in some way or another, right? I watch them all. I think there's a very good reason for it. Today was another great reason for it. As we saw the ES break that low, the group and I were saying, hey, hold on, that NASDAQ futures is still holding. Let's be careful of the short side here. And a little bit of advice and guidance like that could go a long way. And that is really what we focus on within our community, of making sure everyone is sort of aligned with what we're looking at in market commentary throughout the day. We saw that reclaim come in, and we absolutely nailed those longs. Congrats to you guys that caught this one today off of some of our key levels. If you did, let me know down below. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.